pull is important because length of pull is the distance that you need from your trigger to your shoulder so that the gun fits you. Two different reasons. If it's too short, if the length of pull on this gun, got it unloaded here, is too short, instead of being back here, I'm up here and I pull the trigger, this thing's going to crack me in the forehead and give me a new eyebrow. The way you generally want to do length of pull is ideally you want to take the gun and set it in this elbow joint, and you should be able to easily reach the front of the trigger guard or your front knuckle on the trigger itself. If you can see that. You can reach the front of the trigger guard, or this front knuckle can reach the trigger easily and give you plenty of room to play around with. What you don't want is to be back here doing this, because you're never going to get what you need if length of pull is too long. Pretty standard is going to be 13.5, 14 inches for the average male. Youth and compact guns are generally 1 inch shorter, and that 1 inch doesn't sound like a lot, but it usually does make quite a bit of difference in the level of comfort. What you don't want to get into, especially from a youth shooting standpoint, but anybody really, is instead of being here, you don't want them being right here trying to get up on the gun, because whenever you fire the gun like this, it's really going to hurt, because all that recoil energy is going to be focused into your elbow and forearm versus distributed all the way down through your torso from the shoulder. So you're going to get in a situation where psychologically you could put anybody new off of shooting, and physically, I mean, if it hurts, they don't want to do it. If it's unpleasant physically and it's physically painful, they're not going to want to enjoy those shooting sports anymore. There's two different kinds of bluing. If you look at these barrels side by side, you'll see that this one has a really high luster, really shiny, really bright, and this one's satin. Some people prefer this high polished wood, high polished metal to the satin finish wood and satin finish metal. You achieve these differences just in the way the metal's prepped before the finish is applied. But you do, you've got different grades of bluing. You've got high polish and satin finish stainless. Satin just meaning low luster versus high luster.
So I'm reading in the catalog without a picture. This barrel is going to be described as what's
satin blued.
Satin blued. Mm-hmm. And this is going to be high gloss blued.
Yeah, high gloss or high polish.
Okay, and this would be a satin stainless. Other key terms are synthetic or wood.
Right.
There's laminate, which is self-explanatory.
Right, laminated wood. Long action, short action. It gets thrown around a lot, and we get that question from 20-year veteran hunters. They don't know, because it doesn't matter in the scheme of things. But long action versus short action, we talked about cartridges earlier, how the 30-06 is longer than the 308. Well, because the 308 is shorter, you can put it in a smaller gun. Model 7, like we talked about earlier, being much more compact.
So this is the Model 7, and it's a Model 7 short action, is that what it's called?
All Model 7s are short actions because they're so small.
And so what you're saying is, show me the area that they're...
If you look at the front of the receiver to the rear of the receiver on a Model 7, you've got about 6 inches. You take that down to a 700 long action, where your Model 7 receiver is ending right here, your 700 is ending up here. The reason you need a long action is because you've got bigger cartridges.
So not all cartridges are going to be available in short action. Thank you. Yeah. I'm trying to keep it all processed.
No, you've got it. You're spot on. And not all no long action cartridges are going to be available in the Model 7.
The 270s,
right, your 30-06s, your Magnums, stuff like that. One thing for people that are getting into shotgunning and rifle alone is the cheek piece. The cheek piece on a rifle and a shotgun is called a comb. You'll hear people talk about, do you want an adjustable comb, high comb, low comb? And if you don't know what a comb is and you walk into a gun shop and the guy asks you if you want what kind of comb you want, you start checking your hair. You know, is my hair bad? The comb is a term that refers to the cheek piece. We've got a Model 700, another Model 700. This is a BDL. And if you notice, they're similar. They've both got the cheek piece right here. But if you look at this one, you notice how it's elevated right here, whereas this one's straight across? This is an elevated comb. The cheek piece is higher. The comb is higher. And that's your elevated comb. Reason being, if you get a gun like this and you put your face down and you can't see through the scope, it's worthless. You move to something with a higher comb and now your cheek piece is up here, you can see through the scope. There's ways to circumvent that, different ring heights and stuff like that, but some people just have different facial structure, different bone structure. They just can't get low enough or high enough, so they have to consider that when they're buying a gun. If you look at it, you can very plainly see that it's elevated versus a straight back on this one.
And your cheek is going to sit here now. Everything's up higher.
And it's generally about a ½ inch higher.
Wow. Okay. So, and is there another version, or is that it?
That's what you're going to find. You're going to find a standard comb, and this is called a Monte Carlo most of the time. because it's that elevated cheek piece. That's a term you'll hear, raised comb or Monte Carlo thrown around interchangeably. But that's something too that they're talking about. That's what they're talking about, is the comb itself, the cheek piece of the gun. If you get the opportunity, whenever you're mounting a scope up to your gun, what you want to do is, you want obviously no bolt, no cartridges, we're good to go. You want to close your eyes and mount the gun where it's comfortable to shoot. Open your eyes. 9 times out of 10 when you do this, you won't be able to see through your scope because people don't give it the consideration they're supposed to. What they'll do is they'll mount the scope and then they'll put their head where it needs to be. So now instead of resting on my cheekbone, which is consistent bone to wood contact, my head's got to be in the same spot every time. And that's where these combs and stuff like that come into play. It's stuff that contributes to better marksmanship down the road.